Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good in our community. We're kicking it off with Heather Norvell. She's the Executive Director of Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee. Heather, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me today, Jeremy.
Absolutely. So let's start out with a little bit of a history lesson. Give us some history for Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, so Begin Anew was founded back in 1997 as Christian Women's Job Corps, but we changed our name in 2016 to Begin Anew, in part because we had started serving both men and women, and that was a change. We originally just served women, and men now make up like a third of our students. So it was important to capture that. And we also started more of what I would consider like truly a job corps program. And we really morphed more into education because we found that to get people into the jobs, it often meant getting them the proper education first. And so we're primarily an adult education space, and we try to help people begin anew. So we felt like that name captured more of who we are and what we do. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
So let's go ahead and dive into the programs because, as you mentioned, it's a lot of education. And so there's so much to what you do, but walk us through the main programs.
Yeah, so we have 3 different education tracks that we help people achieve their education goals. We work with people on what's called their high school equivalency, and it's actually the HiSET test. A lot of people still call it the GED. The GED does still exist. But the HiSET is administered by the same group of people that does the SAT for high school students. So for people that are already familiar with the SAT for college entrance exams, the HiSET test is administered by that same organization. And in the state of Tennessee, it is the preferred testing method. And I will tell you that for our students, one of the reasons we love embracing the HiSET is the HiSET breaks things up into 5 subjects. So it's language arts reading, language arts writing, math, science, and social studies. And the old school GED, like literally you sat for this super long test and it was pass or fail. It was all or nothing. And the HiSET lets our students take it one subject at a time, which if you can imagine someone who either didn't pass high school for whatever reason, maybe it was generational, or we have a lot of students that we're actually serving that are here in the States and they've come from other countries. And I did not understand this before I worked at Begin Anew, but if people come to America from another country, they can have an advanced degree. They could be a doctor, but their degree means nothing when they get here. And so they start all over. And so they will come to us also trying to get their high school equivalency so that they can go on to often college and sometimes even advanced degrees beyond college to get masters and doctorates, but they have to start with the high school equivalency to even get into college. So we have that track available for students. We work with English language learners, and we have 3 different levels of English language learning. So we have from your basic, it starts with level 1 to we consider level 3 advanced English for working in the workplace. And so in level 3, they start even getting into phrases and idioms and things that wouldn't necessarily that just come naturally to us if you've just grown up in America, but you don't think of those things for others. And then we have a job and computer skills training class that helps people with their computer skills and things like building a resume, mock interviewing to help them prepare for getting that job. And it's just a great opportunity to work with people and watch them grow and watch them on this journey of what the education brings to their lives.
Absolutely. Share statistics. So talk numbers. How many individuals, families, what are the numbers you track and what do the numbers look like? For 2020, I know is a tough year to kind of gauge, but talk what a typical year is like number wise.
Yeah. So a typical year, we can serve like upwards of high 300s, low 400s for students. So we still served 313 students in 2020, which is blowing my mind, honestly, given the circumstances. But we had to learn new things. We had to learn how to take classes online and get new resources for our students. We had students that we had to figure out how to get, laptops in their hands or devices in their hands for some of their schooling, and depending on their circumstances. And man, and we were able to work with other agencies, like, Metro Nashville Public Schools was getting tablets in the hands of all of their children. And so, we were actively campaigning for, okay, can the adults use those same devices at night when the kids aren't? And we got permission, like, for that kind of stuff to happen. And it wasn't just Begin Anew asking for that permission. There's actually a conglomerate of a number of adult education providers called the Adult Education Collective Impact that was huge in getting out there and, asking for what the adults needed too, because it wasn't just our children in this area that needed access.
Carry that forward into when you talk about the pandemic. Obviously, as you mentioned, being able to shift to virtual learning was a big piece of that. But what's maybe one or two other things that you really had to pivot on, and you are still pivoting on here in 2021?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of like a student of ours. So we had a student that graduated this past December from our Nashville location. She was a single mom of 5 children who suddenly found herself homeschooling her children because Metro Nashville Public Schools wasn't meeting. So, like, usually when we meet in person, we provide childcare for our students. In fact, it's one of the distinctives of Begin Anew is that we provide childcare so that these hardworking adults, most of our students, we tend to serve people, we serve all age groups, but 30s to 40s tends to be the sweet spot of adults with young children that need somebody to watch their children. They work all day long. They come to school at night because they're just trying to get an education in order to have a better opportunity to provide for their family. And so that's a huge distinctive. And suddenly this year, there's no childcare because students are virtual. They often have their kids running around the house, so problem solving with helping them figure out what to do. So we have this mom who graduated in December while homeschooling 5 of her children and trying to get her high school equivalency. Like, that was just a very different year. And just the conversations we would have with our students, just even outside of class time, this past year looked a lot like connecting our students to resources. Like, we became this trusted place because they were getting an education through us of, man, I have food insecurities. Where do I go for food? And I'm having trouble with rent this month. And where do I go? And so I'm thankful that we've been able to bridge this great network of other nonprofits where I tell my staff all the time, I'm like, we do education really well, but we are going to partner with anyone and everyone we can to meet the needs of our students. Because if they don't know where their next meal is coming from, they can't focus on their education. So, this became a year of connecting students with other resources too, so that they could continue to get their education.
What's something that you wish everyone knew about Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee?
I wish they knew how amazing our students are, how resilient they are, the stories, their life stories, and how hard they are. And yet they are the kindest. They are so thankful for our volunteers. I mean, we are blessed with a plethora of volunteers, and that's part of how we get to do what we do. But man, our volunteers just fall in love with the students because they're so inspiring when you hear the journey they're willing to take. I mean, just this past year, we had one of our students, Marvelly, that became a United States citizen, like right before July 4th. And something about like that, like right before July 4th, like it just felt so awesome to get to celebrate her citizenship. And you just see these students willing to really work hard. And it's inspiring. It makes you want to be a better person.
Absolutely. What would you offer as advice or words of encouragement when you look at pouring into the community, working with these individuals and families, helping them on the path to their success? What's something that you've kind of learned that you would offer up as advice around, patience? What are the lessons you've learned?
So I think I used to view poverty very singularly. If I heard the word poverty, I immediately thought, oh, it's just someone who has an economic need. And I think I've come to realize it's so much bigger than that. We view poverty as economic, social and spiritual. And when you have a student, like we have a student, Xenia, who came to our Franklin location, and she's this phenomenal individual. And she actually works at Franklin Special School District now, and she's got this great story. But like, she and her husband came here from a country where they were fleeing for their safety. And I'll leave the country unnamed, but I mean, it's just one of those, it's amazing to watch her journey of when she got here. She knew no one because they'd fled a country. So they left their home behind. They've left their family behind, friends behind. She comes here knowing no one, and a neighbor just happened to tell her about Begin Anew. And so like Begin Anew was so much more to her than a place to learn English. It was a place where she found community and a place where she found social connections that she wouldn't have had otherwise. And some of those social connections have led to a job for her. And she actually wants to go on to be a teacher. Like, she's studying, she's actually working on her high school equivalency now. She's finished the English language learning, and she's working on her high school equivalency because she wants to go teach. And it's just so amazing to watch. I just don't think of poverty the way that I used to. And when I see what it can mean to build a community and not just a education place, there's a difference with that.
Yeah.
And it's special.
Great answer too. Talk about how we can help Begin Anew. So how can the community help you?
Wow. So we're always looking for volunteers. And the beauty of right now is it's virtual. So you're not, you don't have to show up to classes. Now, eventually we hope to be back in person. We do have 4 locations. We're located as far north as Madison and as far south as Franklin. And we have 2 different locations in the greater Nashville area as well. So we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for donors and cheerleaders and people we're looking for students. There may be someone out there listening that's like, man, I want to learn English better, or, I want to get my high school equivalency. I never got that for whatever reason. So yeah.
Where does that process start in terms of, for someone that says, I do want to start and go down that path of learning English better, or, getting my high school equivalent? Walk us through where that starts.
Yeah, so right now we actually do meet one-on-one with students for intakes. We just wear masks and social distance, but we bring students in. And so for English language learning, one of the first things we do is we give them a test to determine, okay, or where are you? Are you English language learning 1? Are you level 2? So it kind of helps us with their placement. And the test is both oral and written. And same thing with our high school equivalency students. We bring them in for what's called a gains assessment test. Test doesn't count for anything, but it helps us determine kind of where they are with their English skills and their reading skills in particular, because English and reading play a huge part in what resources we pull. Every single one of our students, it's very individualized, especially with the high school equivalency. We're not putting them in some big classroom. We're often putting them one-on-one with a tutor, or 1-on-3 with just a very small group. And so kind of knowing their skill level helps us know which tutors to pull, which resources to pull online, which books to pull that are going to help them out, and what does that look like?
Talk about where we can go. So website, social media, phone numbers. Where would you direct everyone to learn more about Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, so beginanew.org is a great place to start as far as just finding out about who we are as an organization. The main line is 615-244-3669. I hope I memorized that correctly. 95% sure that's correct. And then we are both on Facebook and Instagram as Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee. So people can find us in both of those places.
Give me maybe 1 or 2 things that you're really looking forward to. We're still early on in 2021, but give me a couple of things that you're really excited about.
I cannot wait to have a graduation in person again. It broke our hearts last year we usually host a graduation in June and December of every year. And our students work so hard, and there is something just magical about watching adult learners put on a cap and gown and walk across the stage and have their students and their children celebrate them, have their family celebrate them. We have had We served 30 different countries of origin last year. 30 different countries of origin. So it is not uncommon during graduation to have someone like Zooming with family members back in a different country. And it's like the first person ever from their family to graduate. That's emotional. I miss getting to have those in-person graduations. And like, we cannot wait to have an in-person graduation and celebrate with our students again.
That's awesome. We'll wrap up one more time with the website, and where do we go to learn more about Begin Anew?
So beginanew.org is the wonderful website, and that's BEGINANEW, and 615-244-3669 is our main line. So call us or reach out.
Heather Norvell, Executive Director, Begin Anew of Middle Tennessee. Thank you for all you and your team do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.